In the wake of the fake account scandal, 2 million at least unauthorized accounts opened, ultimately costing some 5,300 employees their job. How do you think America sees Wells Fargo today?
Oh, I think there's a question about the company, which is completely understandable. But that's why we're very focused on rebuilding trust with our customers, our team members, the communities that we do business in. We've made a lot of changes in the last 6 months that I've been CEO. We've got more work to do, but we're very focused on rebuilding trust.
Why do you think this happened? I mean, you're a guy who's been at this bank since 1987.
Right.
This has been your life in terms of your work. Why did this happen, Tim?
Well, I think it happened because in our retail banking business, we had an incentive compensation plan that drove inappropriate behavior. It created a culture that was very focused on selling products as opposed to providing the right service and advice. So that was number one. Number two, the way that we were organized then versus where we are today is that we had many of our risk functions inside the business. Our businesses were organized in a very siloed way. And so those two combined created an atmosphere for creating this problem.
When you look at the independent board report that came out on this, the words they used, improper, unethical, common to blame employees, without analyzing the root cause. So wasn't it more than just these two dysfunctional things? Was it at the core a systemic culture problem?
Well, those two things that you described, which actually are very important, created a culture in our retail banking business that was inappropriate.
Do you believe that Wells Fargo put too much blame on low-level employees for the fake account scandal?
I don't believe so, right? I think that the senior leadership has taken accountability. Having said that, I think that one of the fundamental mistakes that we made was that we had an incentive compensation plan in place that created a culture that was uncomfortable for a lot of people.
So you don't think that terminating, 5,300 employees for these actions, granted they were violations, but you don't think that's pointing too much blame on those folks, on lower level employees?
I think on those team members that did something that was fraudulent or violated our code of ethics, no.
But at the direction of their management?
I think for those team members that were uncomfortable, that left the company, that weren't happy at the company, the answer is absolutely yes. And that's why we've got to learn from these mistakes and make these changes.
Some of these folks were doing directly what their management told them.
Right.
And now they're out. They don't have a job. Some of them have lost their homes because they can't afford it. What is your message to them?
My message to them, again, is that if you violate the code of ethics at Wells Fargo, if you do something that's not inappropriate for a customer, you can't work at the company.
Almost half a dozen Wells Fargo workers told CNN Money that they were fired after they called the bank's confidential ethics hotline. Now, it's important to note the board report did not find a pattern of retaliation against these whistleblowers. These are individual cases, people that have reached out to us. What was your personal reaction when you heard some of this, that there was some retaliation against some whistleblowers?
So one instance of retaliation, from my perspective, is one too many. It's completely unacceptable. The way I think about this, Poppy, is not necessarily as the CEO of the company, but as a father. We have 3 children that are all millennials. Our 2 sons are married. So think about 5 millennials at home. I think about 5 folks of that age working at Wells Fargo that had a concern, that were uncomfortable going to their manager or didn't bring it up to our human resources group, and instead called the ethics line. In doing that, if they were retaliated against, that's completely unacceptable to me.
Folks have raised their eyebrows, some folks, that your compensation has gone up. Your 2016 compensation, $12.9 million, an 18% increase from 2015, about $2 million more. This, amid the scandal, amid the fact that you do have these 5,300 employees that were dismissed because of this. For folks that have a hard time stomaching that, they ask why. What do you say to them?
Well, first I got a new job. I mean, I had different roles in the company during those periods. That's number one. Number two, my compensation was impacted. I did not get a cash bonus last year, which was, by the way, entirely appropriate because I bear some responsibility for what happened. I've said that publicly to our team and to our customers. And then in addition, there was equity compensation that was vesting this year that was cut in half.
But you got a pay increase.
Because I became
Pretty substantial. I understand
because
that.
I became CEO of the company. Poppy, I had a different job. I was the president and chief operating officer of the company. Part of the company reported to me. I took on an additional role, which was in a new job, which was being CEO.
You were CFO, then COO and president between 2011, 2015, at sort of the height of all of this, at the height of these fake account openings. Granted, you were in a different part of the bank and you did not have direct control over the people running this part of the bank. But for folks that are asking, why are you, an insider who's been there since 1987, the right guy to lead the bank in the next chapter? What do you say to them?
Well, first, it wasn't my decision. The board decided that I was the right person for the job.
But you accepted it.
I did, because I had the confidence that I could make change in the company. Why did I have the confidence? Because I've been making change for my 29-and-a-half-year career at Wells Fargo. I made change when I became the president and chief operating officer about a year before. When you look at the changes that we've made since I became CEO, you can see fundamental activities at Wells Fargo being done differently.
The fact that this was happening, as the board report found, actually longer than 5 or 6 years. They found issues of this coming up as far back as 2002. The fact that this could happen for more than a decade plus. Do you believe that it plays right into the argument that some make that Wells Fargo is simply too big to manage?
I don't think it is, and I think that the changes that we've made, some of which began when I became chief operating officer about a year and a half ago, are fundamental to fixing what was broken at the company. There's no question that for
was it too big to manage?
No, I don't think it was too big to manage. What I think was that we had a decentralized structure that worked well for decades, but it clearly fostered a culture in our retail banking business that was inappropriate. So what do we need to do? We need to step back and say, let's change it. So what have we done? We've taken the risk and control functions out of the lines of business, so out of our retail banking business, out of our wholesale banking business, wealth and investment management, and so on, and we've put those in a centralized place so that in terms of the check and balance, in terms of managing risk, we can manage risk at Wells Fargo in the size that we are today.
Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway remains the largest shareholder in Wells Fargo. He is famous, of course, for the comments he made in his congressional testimony around the Salomon Brothers crisis when he said, lose money for the firm and I will be understanding, lose a shred of reputation and I will be ruthless. And so much of this for Wells is about reputation. Did you promise Warren Buffett anything about reputation?
I promised him that I would do my best. That's all I can promise. And I promised him that we would execute on the changes that we have talked about publicly, and we would be very focused on rebuilding trust with our customers, our team members, our shareholders.